Welcome to my channel, INTJ Island. Today, I'm going to talk about an INTJ approach to teaching. The method I'm going to use to discuss this is to give an example in my own life. I found myself in the happy position of sharing a project with my granddaughter this past weekend. I felt it was time to get her on the road to doing some serious singing. She loves music and she sings a lot, but usually too quietly for others to hear. As so often happens, I woke up one morning and it hit me out of the blue that I could help this 8-year-old girl move forward to being able to sing openly and for an audience. And the seed was planted. But where to start? I began by breaking it down into its component parts. I decided to focus on energy, projection, and presentation. There is some overlap, of course, but that could be handled as it came up. Starting with energy. As I was thinking this through, I told my wife that Janis Joplin had a pretty bad singing voice, but that didn't matter at all. She still became a superstar. What she did was to pour a truckload of energy into every note of every song. She was like nitroglycerin going off whenever she sang. She radiated energy, and she powered through every verse. The takeaway from that, for me, is that energy is a primary component of performing. When you closely listen to any great singer, even the ones who sing soft ballads, you find that they all deliver energy to the audience. You find the energy you need to perform when you feel the song. When it is a story that you think is exciting and therefore important to share, you can make your audience feel the excitement too. I picked the song Old Slewfoot for her to sing because it is a story that you can get inside of. Also, my granddaughter's mother has pumped up the idea that Disneyland is the greatest thing to ever happen to humanity, and since I first heard the song at a Disneyland exhibit in the early 1970s, that would make it easier to sell to my granddaughter as being cool. The exhibit was called Country Bear Jamboree, with animated bears singing songs. Most importantly, there is a story to tell. Here was a big old grizzly bear terrorizing a ranch, and the owner was about to go after the bear. The verses are interesting, and best of all, the chorus gets up and really moves along, and it describes this impossibly large and powerful bear. It is made to order for energy. My aim was to get my granddaughter on board with believing this is a very exciting tale to tell, so she could pour her own excitement into her singing to get her audience to draw her excitement and energy into themselves. She was going to take them for a ride into this story, and they were going to love it. Next, I thought about projection. To project your voice, you have to breathe correctly, and you project not from your chest or even your throat, but from your diaphragm. When you breathe in, you pull your diaphragm down, and your stomach muscles tighten. This was something I needed to teach her, and to just jump ahead a bit, I was happy to see that she took to it very well when we got to that point. The technique is one of those things that can be used elsewhere, of course. Sports and martial arts teach the proper use of breathing. And when you hear the mighty karate yell, "Kia!" it tightens up your abdomen so that a punch will hit solid muscle hard as a concrete wall. While you are projecting, it is important to project the correct notes. There is a whole area of singing technique that needs to be learned, and that will take time. This project is a long-term one. My goal is to teach her how to hit the right notes with great power, and to use the change in power from one part of the song to another to create a rise and fall of energy so that the audience is moved to varying levels of excitement as the song progresses. Finally, we come to performance. The first step is to memorize each word of the song so you know it as well as your own name. When you are really singing, you can't do your best when you are looking down at the music. You must look the audience in the eye. It is as though you were telling an amazing story to someone, perhaps an event that you were just witness to, and you want to share your excitement at having witnessed it. You can't very well do that if you're looking at a paper and are reading a bunch of notes you've written down about the event. And as you are telling your story in song, you want to live it for the audience. You are excited, and when it says, "High on the mountain," you point over the audience's head as if you see that mountain right now. When you sing that there are bear tracks looking back at you, you point to the tracks going up the mountain. And you continually look back at the audience to make sure they know you are talking to them. You smile when it is appropriate. You show excitement, fear, and amazement, when the story gets especially exciting, scary, or amazing. You are alive and truly animated as you present your song. This story is so wonderful, you simply have to share it right now. And your excitement, which pours from your energy, simply gushes forth. You don't hold anything back. This story demands that you give it all you have. You will lift your audience to the same energy level you presented them, and your goal is to make that level as high as you possibly can manage. That was where my thinking and planning were at when my granddaughter showed up to spend Friday afternoon, evening, and night with us. I started off making my pitch. She had no idea what was coming. I had printed up the song on 4 sheets with verse 1 and the chorus on sheet 1, verse 2 and the chorus again on sheet 2, and so on through all 4 verses. I put this in a little notebook for her to use. I wanted her fully on board if we were going to do this, and she was quite excited about the idea very quickly. She does love to sing, and this is a new adventure for her, learning to perform. We went into my office, and I had the first verse on my whiteboard. I had marked emphasis points along the way and breathing points as well. My part was to sell her on the song. I told her the story in the first verse and a bit of the chorus. She had already learned about cheetahs being the fastest land animals alive and that they top out around 60 miles per hour. In the chorus, it says this grizzly bear runs 90 miles an hour and he takes 30 feet a jump. This first lesson lasted hours. Face it, it is a huge project. My granddaughter is only 8 years old, but she has an insatiable desire to learn and amazing stamina to keep on going. I asked if she knew what a tall tale is, and she said she did. I mentioned Paul Bunyan, and she had heard of him. I also talked about some of the wild claims for Davy Crockett. I told her that people like to exaggerate to make a story more interesting, and that is what is going on in this song. But also, a grizzly bear is a terrifying beast when it is riled up. I told her about Lewis and Clark and how they were told by the Indians that there was a bear that was powerful and very dangerous. The explorers wrote in their journals that they thought the Indians were frightened because they only had bows and arrows, but the expedition had guns, and a bear was not going to be a problem. They had seen black bears before, but when they finally encountered their first grizzly, they too were terrified of this beast, and they had to jump into a river to save their lives. When you see something like that, it looks like it really is running 90 miles an hour. I think this helped her to understand what is going on with the chorus. We covered a lot of ground. I had her first read through every verse, and she didn't go on to the next one until she had put energy into what she was reading and showed excitement at the proper places. I had to explain a number of words and expressions in the song that she was not familiar with. She has a stellar memory, and we worked on verse 1 and the chorus until she had it down. We then moved on to working on the melody. That took some time, but she had it down well enough to sing it for me. I pulled out my guitar amp, and I hooked up my electric guitar, and I put a microphone on a stand for her. We were set to finally start working on the projection part of this. Bless her heart, she poured everything she had into doing the verse and chorus. At one point, she broke into tears out of frustration, and I gave her a big hug and told her we were doing this for fun and there is no pressure. She was amazing. She dived right back in, and at the end of the work for the day, she smiled and gave me a huge hug and said that she was very glad we were doing this project together. One final note on day 1. I go to bed earlier than the others do as a rule. I'm an early riser, and that has me in bed early as well. My granddaughter likes to come in and tuck Grandpa into bed. When she was done with my covers, she sat on the bed and sang the first verse and chorus for me on her own with no coaxing from me. She did a fine job of it. And then she gave me another big hug and said, "I love you, Grandpa." I think I will never forget that day. Looking back over what we did, I can't believe we covered so much ground. With most 8-year-olds, I think that would have taken several sessions over days at least, or maybe weeks. As long as a student is still eager to learn, I just keep pouring out the stuff to learn. And that girl loves to learn. She thrives on praise, and frankly, I'm so proud of her and what she can do that praise is easy to supply by the bucket load. Long term, I hope to continue this project and get her to the point of doing a performance for the family. We'll get her a cowgirl hat and a nice dress, and I'll strum the guitar in the background and let her show her talent. We aren't there yet, but we made some huge strides forward. If nothing else, it was several hours of quality, fun time we shared. I'm a very lucky guy to have a granddaughter who is willing to work with me in this way. I hope that one day, when I am dead and gone, she will look back and say, "I loved my grandpa. We had a lot of fun together." Whenever I tackle a big project, I like to start by pulling it apart this way and identifying the important components, and then create a method for accomplishing each of the parts. Once I am confident that my plan will work, I begin, but I am always evaluating the effectiveness of what I am doing, and I am quite willing to go back to the drawing board if something is not working. Does this resonate with you? How do you tackle projects that have many parts to them? If you enjoyed the video, please click like, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. If you click on the bell, you will also receive notifications when I put up a new video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.